Welcome to episode 101. This is the Depeche Mode show. Haha, you see what I did there? So here we are. It is Friday the 11th of March. A little bit late, sorry. We just got carried away talking. Welcome to you all watching live, all of you in the chat room. And if you're watching this on catch up, thank you for coming back and checking us out. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also, do the decent thing and share us around a little bit, get the word out there. So thanks for joining us. We've got a great show lined up for you with a very special guest, maybe not quite the one that we told you about, but we'll come to that in just a minute. Before we do, let me just remind you that we are completely funded by you guys. We do this for you, and therefore you have to pay for it. No, you don't have to pay for it, but if you want to, you're more than welcome to. And you can do that in a number of ways. The first way is you can donate to our PayPal account just by using that link there. It's also in the description just below this video. And of course, if you're watching live on YouTube, you can do this whole super chat, super sticker thing, which a lot of you do, and we are super grateful. And we thank everyone that has donated to us in the past and the present and in the future too, because it's your fault you keep us doing all of this kind of stuff. 101 consecutive shows. I'm astounded that we've lasted that long. I do go back sometimes and look and think, oh blimey, I've put on a few pounds, didn't shave that day, my hair's a mess, but we're still doing this, and we love you to come back as often as you do. We really appreciate your patronage as always. Lots of familiar faces in the chat room. If you're new, if you've never watched this show before, give us a shout out. We'll give you a shout out back. If you have any questions for our guest, can I just ask you that you stick a big capital Q at the beginning so that we can identify it in the masses of comments that fly by, and myself and Ben will drop those into a bucket, and we'll throw those at our esteemed guests a little bit later on in the show. Before we get to that esteemed guest, let me bring in the boss, the governor, Mr. Ben Simpson. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, yeah, great. Not sure I'm the boss, but yeah, I'm doing pretty
Mate,
well.
This is all your fault, so you're the you take all the blame. Yeah, I'll take all the credit, you take all the blame.
Yeah, that's fine. Looking forward to the show tonight. We've got a great guest on. Like you say, it's not who we originally intended, but equally as good and as interesting. And it's so interesting, in fact, we were nattering away. All nattering away before we started, and got a bit carried away with ourselves. But he's great guy. Looking forward to chatting with him.
Been a busy week for you this week?
Back on vocals again with the band. We've got our first gig in a while tomorrow at JD's in St Helens. So looking forward to returning to gigging again. I think it's been about a month. And working on some original stuff with the band as well. So cool. We've got an album of the usual covers coming out, which that's what we've been working on. But we've got some original stuff in the pipeline as well. So
can we expect an exclusive on the show? Maybe.
Oh, aye, yeah.
Okay.
If anybody wants to hear it,
yeah, definitely.
Probably, get going.
Cool.
Old fogies. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Great to have you, Ben. Great to see you again. Let's move south of the UK. He's just kind of like a bit, if you look at London, look to the left, he's just over there. We can't seem to get rid of him. He's like a piece of furniture that you can't fit out of the door. Mr. Kent Spong.
Hello.
Yes.
I remember coming on to the show about 40 episodes ago, and here I am still.
You're still there.
Welded to the chair.
What's happened to Hans? He's still kind of like leaning up against the CS.
Yeah, it looks ruder than that, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Well, you.
But yeah, well, for the benefit of those people that don't watch the show regularly, and for the benefit of our guest, that's Hans Zimmer, by the way, with a cloth cap on. It is genuinely Hans Zimmer. He's a bit flat, but there you go. It could do with a bit of a tune. Are you well? Have you been busy today? You've had the builders in, haven't you?
Yeah. God. They were supposed to be doing the top of the garden today and laying the decking. They decided, the decking isn't here, so we're going to do the bottom of the garden first. And I went, well, there's still a shed down there that's full of keyboards. Yes, can you just move them now? No. But I did find an MKS 80 I didn't know I had.
Just found one. Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah. In its box. I went, that's handy.
Makes you sick. Anyway, good to have you on. Like the T-shirt, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I always do like your
Hello,
choices,
fat
Peter.
man.
Yes. Brilliant. Thank you for coming on again. So we've got a guest. Now, we had lined up Mr. Dan Goldstein of Cherry Audio. He's the CTO, I think is the correct term, and lead developer for Cherry Audio. But he's been super busy. And those of you, I mean, I did post this on the Facebook page. Cherry Audio yesterday announced a new synth that's coming in the next 7 days. So he's like really, really busy. And he apologised profusely this morning. It was very kind of last minute that he couldn't make it. But he has sent a deputy in his place. And what a deputy. It's only the man that pretty much designs all of these things that you see from Cherry Audio. And he's done hardware designs as well. Not only that, he, correct me if I'm wrong, but he played with Berlin and Survivor and loads of other things. It's the one and only Mitchell Sigman. Welcome.
Hi there.
How are you?
I am well. I played a gig last night, so you can see my eyes.
Oh, very good. Was that with a band or?
Yeah, I play with a band here. I'm in Las Vegas, by the way.
Right. Okay.
Balmy, cold Las Vegas right now, if you can believe that. It's very windy and cold here. But yes, I play an outdoor gig here regularly.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's pretty fun.
There's a really big live music scene there. The kind of the girl rock bands around Vegas, and she's just like always gigging. Is it just a massive live
I
scene?
don't know if I'd call it massive, but it is busy. A lot of musicians in the States come here because you can work. There are very few places in the U.S. that you can make a living doing music, and you can do it here if you're clever.
Cool. So, as I alluded to in the build up to your announcement, you played.
Bands are kind of bands. Always there's ups and downs, but certainly the Berlin gig, it's been a while. I did it from 2000 to 2007, and that was sort of the more fun one because you can imagine, for people not familiar with Berlin, they were an 80s electro pop kind of band, most famous for Take My Breath Away and the Metro. And, being the keyboard player in that band, it's like being the lead guitar player in any other band. You're right up front and you're loud. And the singer encouraged us to just be as wild as we wanted to be. So
she's pretty wild as well as Terry Nunn, isn't she?
Yeah. So it was a great show, and she was really good singer. I mean, it wasn't one of those hacked together 80s bands. It was a tight band. She had a very tight ship, and it was super fun. I got to play the big loud synthesizer.
Nice.
I wouldn't love that.
Yeah. And I have to say, I'm loving the E2 in the background. They're a huge fan of that instrument. So I do like that people. We've got an E2 in the background. Yes. I've got another camera angle today, kids. And if I move like that, you can see my feeble attempt at the EMU collection with the Emax 2. There's one there. There's also another one just over in the corner there, but that's about as good as I get. So look at that. We've got different camera angles and everything. I can't hide the beer belly. I have to breathe in here. But that's no good. So let's bring everybody back in the room and let's turn off the extra cam. Oh no, I don't want to do that. See, this is technology, kids. I'm struggling. That's the button I wanted to press. Right. Okay. Just have a look in the I did see there's a couple of comments about distortion or buffer. No, it looks like buffering. So I think we're okay. It's probably not us because everything seems okay.
YouTube. It is YouTube. It's buffering like hell.
Oh, right. Okay. So, yeah, unfortunately, not a lot we can do. We're putting out a stream to... So stick with us, kids, if you can. That'd be great. So, right, let's do what we're going to do. So normally we're just going to crack on with the normal show. We've got a few news topics, and then we're going to get in with Mitchell and talk to him about Cherry Audio and all the great things they've been doing over the last couple of years, if not more, and maybe what we might get a little bit of inside information about what's coming down the pipeline next week and maybe in the future as well. So we won't pressure Mitchell into saying anything that will get him into trouble, but we are going to dig a little bit. So let's go to our news topics and just whiz through some of these because there has been a little bit of news. And we're going to start off I'm just going to open this whole window up by itself because there's so many different things to flick through. Oh yes, we're back with Behringer, who just have got new product announcement diarrhea at the moment. Every day seems to be something new. We're not going to dwindle too long everyone a miniature version of their Model D, which is coming in this really ugly kind of case that I think we've all agreed is not the best design in the world. But
it's awful, that, isn't it? It's really horrible, that
but one. We can't grumble if it's $99 for something that, well, we haven't heard these things yet. These are all just pictures and digits and words on a page. So there was that. There is also this one, which is a little bit more interesting. Which was sorry about all my Facebook notifications coming through there. And the reason I'm doing this is because Behringer don't have like a website that they announce stuff on. That's all on Facebook. So this is the Model 15. No prizes for guessing what this has been inspired by with all the bright colours. Yeah. But it's produced in this format that can either sit in its own case or be bolted into a Eurorack unit, so lots of different stuff there. What else have we got? Let me just bring Mitchell back into the stream. Oh, he's gone again. There he is. This was interesting. They got some feedback. They wanted a mixer, so this allows you to mix all of those little desktop units into by using USB. That's an idea. What else have we got here? So this was another one that was teased yesterday. Not an announcement as such, but hey guys, look at us doing some testing. It's an SH5 clone of some description. So that looks actually, interesting.
So there'll be two for sale then.
Yes, quite. And also there was the Syncussion, which we know that they've been working on this Pearl Syncussion clone. Then this one, I think, generally ins and outs, MIDI and CV and what have you. So that's coming along nicely, apparently. And last but by no means first, yes, this. I wanted to bring this up because no matter what side of the argument you sit on, like Behringer, don't like Behringer, whatever, I don't like it when they do stuff like this. And this was a post that they just put on their Facebook page saying synthocracy, synthesizers for the masses, not the classes or the classes or however you want to say it. And it's just stoking, it's just poking the bear, isn't it? And I don't like this kind of dig at the people that maybe don't like Behringer and they're classed as gear snobs, all this kind of stuff. And I thought that was a little bit, you're announcing all these wonderful new things and then you just go and do one of those things. This week from Behringer, because undoubtedly there'll be another half a dozen things.
Oh, lots.
Next week.
Yeah, lots of thoughts.
And how about ones you can actually say on air?
Very few. Admittedly, I like the fact that Behringer did put that, for the masses, not for the classes, actually, because I don't feel so bad of going, Behringer, go suck it. It's because it's a mutual thing. There's balance.
Yeah.
There.
No, yeah, I get that.
If it was always me just having a go, it wouldn't be so bad. But you can't deny it as a business model.
No.
It's brilliant. It's fantastic. The gear's, is going to be relatively good for the pricing, or probably be very good for the pricing, and you just can't knock it. And I've given up trying to, fight Behringer.
Yeah, you can't. It's an impossible battle that you'll never win.
Yeah, it's like, so why bother?
Yeah,
so,
indeed.
Yeah,
probably I'd want to hear that, the filter's supposed to be pretty nifty on those, and I'd like to see if they've recreated that. I've not got as much problem, I don't think, as a lot of people have with Behringer. The main thing that was bugging me about them was the Oberheim thing, and when they've handed that back over to Tom, I thought, well, yeah, that's you didn't have to do that, and so I feel a little bit better.
They did.
Yeah, well, maybe they did. Yeah,
there's a bigger story behind that, and unfortunately, we can't talk about it. But
right. Yeah. I'm not privy to that information, but for me looking in, it was like, all right, well, you've got this like evil gene. The holy trinity of synth makers. He's took his trademark and won't give it him back, and it was like, this is too much, this guy. I've got a couple of bits of Behringer, but I'm not bothering with him anymore. So giving the trademark back to Oberheim, it is for the average Joe like myself, it looks good. It's a redeemer, really, for what we're seeing. But like, putting that aside, some of the things that they make, nobody's interested in making them, and it's I don't agree with like some of the things they've done. I didn't mind the DeepMind 12. That's a pretty decent sound. It relies heavily on effects, but it's okay. The little Pro One thing,
the Prince.
That's great. That actually does sound like
I've heard,
to me.
Yeah, I've heard.
It sounds pretty, convincing, and I do use that quite a bit. But saying that, Repro One sounds pretty much the same. So I'm finding myself using that more and more.
More convenient.
But, yeah, but as for the releases that's come out, not much has got me really excited. I started a bit of a conversation off about those USB connectors on that mixer, and everybody jumps on board that, and they've changed them now. So I'm not saying that was down to me, but it was it's good that the kind of willing to listen to feedback and implement it. So apparently that's going to have USB-Cs on it when it comes out now. So
apparently, yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nothing's really exciting me, but it's more stuff in it.
Yeah.
I just wonder how they're going to make it all with this chip shortage.
They're not, are they, at the moment?
We're going to make this, we're going to make that, and nobody's got any chips, have they?
Yeah, it's all we're going to do this, but when?
Doesn't affect Cherry Audio though.
Well, no, and let's come to Mitchell. So, obviously, Mitchell, you're in the business, so we completely respect that you have a professional viewpoint and opinion. But have you got anything you'd like to add about these particular things?
Well, I think like a lot of people, I could talk about Behringer for a long time, but keeping the focus on these new products they've announced, all the little tiny boxes, I don't understand those, and I didn't understand them when Roland did the boutique ones either. Personally, I like big clunky stuff. The two keywords you can see in this are a Polymoog and a giant emulator. I like big stuff, big knobs, real things. To me, those little keyboards with the little one octave membrane thing, it's like having a guitar with two strings and one fret. It just seems, to me personally, so useless. And I'm not even a virtuoso 88, that kind of guy. But they seem stupid and useless and kind of almost like a tease. It's sort of kind of like this instrument, but they're paraphonic, so they don't really have multiple filters. They're just kind of like, I don't know, they're just junky toys to me. Yeah. And I know there's a huge market and they will sell zillions of them if they can actually manage to make them. But for me, I think as you get older also, I just like nice things. I like nice things with quality parts that don't feel like a little piece of plastic. I don't know, to me it's just like, and the fact that they're announcing, 50 of these things that they can't actually ship, it seems a little silly.
I don't begrudge them making the stuff. Sorry, there we go. That they're doing so much that they come up with all of these announcements like months and months in advance of them actually delivering a product. And I would just rather they say, "Hey, everyone, coming out next week is this," or "Coming out next month is this," rather than, "Hey, we're going to do all of this stuff," because they've announced all of this new stuff,
Right.
and yet they're still waiting to deliver on all the stuff they announced the last time.
Right. And
So-
from a business standpoint, it seems silly because like we don't announce things that unless they're coming out really soon, not only because we don't want to people be like, "Man, when are they going to put it out?" but also from a standpoint of you don't really want your competition to to know months in advance.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So
So interesting viewpoints, and they'll carry on doing what they do. We can't stop them, and there is some good to be had. I think we'll just leave it there. I've been noticing in the chat that people are having some issues.
Yeah.
So I don't, certainly from our end here, or mine, because I run the show here, and we don't actually come into my computer and then go out again. It's all, everyone goes into the servers, and then StreamYard does its funky stuff and then spits it out the other end. I don't know whether it's a problem with them, whether it's a problem with YouTube. I've looked at everything that I've got here is as it normally is. I got
YouTube running on the other computer.
Yeah.
And it's been fine here.
Okay. That's interesting. Maybe
so it's going out and coming back.
Yeah. Maybe it's just, who knows. But anyway, stick with us, hopefully. I've just seen Cresshead saying the stream seems okay now. People are telling me that it's a YouTube issue. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's one of the reasons why we didn't go for a particular package of streaming software that would have meant everybody comes into me and then I spit it out the other end. And that can cause all sorts of issues, particularly when the bandwidth gets squeezed at this time of night, as it generally does on the weekend. Anyway, thanks for bearing with us, and we appreciate you sticking around. So let's get rid of all this. I think we need to actually set some rules about the B word and how we discuss them in future. Plan of attack to be firm and fair. And anyway, let's talk about another contentious company, but in a completely different way, because you either love them or you hate them. And personally, I love them. And on your show last night, Kent, there were a few people that really hated them. When we say show in inverted commas. By the way, Mitchell has dropped out. He will be coming back. He's having a few issues locally with his audio, so we'll bring him back in as and when. But I know he wanted to talk about this. And this, ladies and germs, is the new computer from Apple called the Mac Studio, which sounds rather nice and even looks very nice as well. This is basically kind of like a halfway house between a Mac Mini and a Mac Pro, I guess. It runs off the M1 chipsets. M1 Ultra and M1 Max, I think, are the options. If anything, I just love the website design. I love what Apple do with their web page designs, because as you scroll down, it turns around. Oh, it's just so cool. So connectivity-wise, let's go, because this is brilliant, isn't it? Connectivity-wise, at the front, you've got two USB 3/Lightning ports with an SD card reader. And then on the back, you've got 4 Lightning ports, Ethernet port, power, 2 regular USB, an HDMI, and a headphone socket, and that's about it. But then let's get through all the pretty stuff. I really do love their websites. You can choose between the M1 Max and the M1 Ultra. There are your differences between the two. That M1 Ultra, 20 cores, up to 64 core GPU with 128 gig of unified memory, and then 800 gigabyte per second memory bandwidth. That's huge. The specs on these are pretty astounding. The M1 Max, 2.5 times faster CPU performance, although it doesn't say against what. Is that just like a regular M1? But then the M1 Ultra, these are the specs for the M1 Max, up to 9 streams of 8K video playback, 57 billion transistors. support for up to 5 displays. Although I was going to say, who had 5 displays? And then I look at Mr. 6 Displays Simpson, and I know that Kent, you can't see it because he doesn't have any lights on in his room. He is being illuminated and irradiated all by... Yeah. Up to 8 terabyte SSD with massive transfer speeds there. Of course, the M1 Ultra just goes way beyond that. 18 streams of 8K video playback. 114 billion transistors. I mean, stunning specs in a nice little compact unit. How they squeeze all of that into that is beyond me, but it's very impressive stuff. They also announced a new cinema display called it's called the Studio Display, which is incredibly expensive but has amazing specs as well. It really is a wonderful little machine, but the pricing of these is not cheap. I think.
No, really?
Yeah, I mean, who'd have guessed? Let's have a quick look at the prices here. So the base prices for the M1 Max version is $2,000. For the M1 Ultra, it's $4,000, and this is just the base. So you start going in and speccing up larger hard drives and the fancier variations on that system on the chip configuration. Things start getting very expensive. However, as we discussed on your show yesterday, Kent, one of these things will last you a very long time, and you won't have to worry about upgrades or anything. It's just doing what it does. Thoughts on the Mac Studio? Now, I know, Mitchell, when we were chatting off air, you were like, "Oh, I want one of these."
Yeah.
Is one of these going to be in your future?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, this is something I can talk about for a long time, but I'll try to pare it down. For years and years and years, when we were young men, you could buy some sort of Mac tower for around $2,000 when you had, I go back to Quadra 840 AV, if that tells you how old I am. And then, the G3 and G4 and the silver G5 towers and all those, they were all right around that $2,000 price point. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, along with many, many other creative types like myself, when they got rid of that, it was like, okay, you get an iMac now with a built-in display that you don't want, which that's how it was for me. I never wanted their stupid display because I always had 2 displays. Mm-hmm. And it was a real bummer because I held on to my silver tower as long as I could because they just didn't make anything for me. And I'm sure that's a sentiment they've heard over and over again. And then it was like, oh, well, we're going to make they made that tower that was $10,000 and everybody went, this is useless. Yeah. And so finally, and I looked it up, I looked up when they last made a silver tower because nobody liked the ashtray thing. It's been about a decade. It's been a little over a decade since they've made a $2,000 computer that's powerful, that doesn't have a display. You're not saddled with their display. So personally, I'm thrilled. I've got a Mac Mini because I bought it because it was the best, compromise, but it's not really the thing. So I think it's great. The $2,000, I looked it up for about $2,500 maybe if you want to add a little bit. You can pretty much get there. And apparently these are the fastest Macs ever made. So I don't think you need the Ultra unless you're doing, 8K video like crazy. Yeah. For music types, I think this is going to be killer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is very much designed for, hence the name Mac Studio. I think it's very much designed for creatives, where this kind of investment is just absolutely worth it. I'm unlike yourself. I'm a big iMac fan. I like having everything in one place and a nice big 27-inch display. However, I am tempted by this, but the only thing is I would then have to factor in getting a new display. Obviously, it wouldn't be the Mac one because it's very expensive. But there's some good stuff out there. It's a good prices, and I do like what Ben's got. Although he's taking his camera off at the moment, he's got one of those very large, kind of curved wide things. Yeah, and that's I think that might be the way forward.
$500, so
they're not stupidly expensive. So, but I think, as you say, just the base model with a couple of tweaks in terms of the storage, and you're in a very good place for music production. Kent, you've got a Mac Mini as well.
Yeah, I've got an old one. Yeah. Still doing well.
Yeah. But would one of these tempt you?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I tell you what, I can see a lot of those Ultras selling. like hotcakes because they will be ideal for data mining.
True.
With 64 GPU cores. Hello. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I'd go with the other. What was the lower one?
The Max, the M1 Max.
Yeah, that seems more than enough.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
And Ty's in the chat, so Ty, can you buy it for me, mate, please?
Can you buy one for me as well?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, welcome, Ty. I just saw you trouncing through there.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Pay you back, honest. I saw that and I went, oh, this is great because I like the Mac Mini format. I like the way it works, and I like the way you can, because I do like to move the computers around quite a lot.
Just a bit.
Yeah. So to be able to just grab them and plug it in there or plug it into that. Yeah, I think with chip shortages and everything else, when are these due? 2025 or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, 3 weeks supposedly.
What?
Yeah.
I'm so there, girlfriend. I really. Actually, they do a monthly scheme, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Oh, they know me so well.
166 a month for the base model, 333 for the Ultra, yeah. I have to say, while you were talking, I was looking over there thinking, do you know what? I could do 166 a month.
That's the problem, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Ben, again, you're a Mac and a PC user, but does one of these tempt you at all?
Very much, yeah, very much. I was watching the event, trying to put little updates in the group as it was going along, but I was too busy jumping up and down and screaming and stuff. I was like, I really expected a more powerful Mac Mini coming out. I didn't
apparently
see
it's coming
this.
later in the year.
Yeah,
apparently.
I didn't see this at all. But basically, if you look at it inside, it looks to be just a Mac Mini with two great big massive fans on top. That extra bit of depth just seemed to be like two jet engines on top of it.
Yeah.
So they're saying that it's going to be nice and quiet, but them fans are for a reason, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it looks great, and like Kent said as well, I think I've been like watching a bit on YouTube, all these Mac specialists and that, and they're saying that if you're doing like 4K video or whatever, a lot of video editing stuff, then maybe the Ultra version. But I was happy with like a Mac Mini Pro. That's what I was expecting to come out. This is above and beyond that, so I reckon the Max would do me. Like Kent said, I think for music, I'm using. You can't really see it's blocked off by my chair, but I've got like, the old Mac Pro over there.
Cheese great.
Yeah. It's got 64 gig of RAM in it. It's quad core. It's got 8 terabytes of drive in it, and it still works, but it struggles sometimes. I've noticed that like. It's got a lot of soft synths running. Sometimes it might have the odd glitch in that. It's been a brilliant thing. It's like 2009 model, and you alluded to this earlier with your conversation with Kent, saying that like if you buy one of these, it's going to last years. But the only thing that worries me about it is these SSDs. Don't they like degrade over time and eventually they become unusable? These are like
any drive does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
whether it's a physical.
Yeah, you can change them though. These are directly on the motherboard. So what happens when you can't write to it anymore? Like we used to get in like 10 years out of our Macs. But what if we only get 3 out of this? I mean, it's cost us like $4,000. It's like
I guess the only way to find out about that is let's see what happens in 3 years' time.
I don't know.
I don't know how bad that is, that degradation of storage, but if it is an issue, then really you should be able to replace the drive. It shouldn't be on the motherboard, I don't think.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I personally, I've had this iMac now for what did I say? It was late 2013. This one, so I think I bought it in 2014. So yeah, we're about. I can't do the it's 8 years old. And it's done really, really well. It's on like 18 hours a day. I'm running all sorts of stuff personal stuff, so like this and doing all the show stuff. I also use it to remote desktop into my work system, which is down here, just so I don't have to keep turning around. Everything's on one screen, so I'm just moving between these two computers, and it just handles everything perfectly well. And I can't remember the last time I heard the fans kick in. I've had the hard drive replaced with an SSD, which has just given it a new lease of life. It'll certainly do me another year or so until I can save up to get something nicer. But I was hoping that on this announcement that there was going to be the announcement of the new big iMacs, because they did the small 24.5 inches, didn't they, with just the standard M1 chip, and some people have bought those to use in music production and said they're maybe not quite up to those kind of standards. So I've been waiting for a replacement for this 27-inch iMac, and that hasn't happened yet. But now they've announced this, I'm now thinking, well, maybe this is the time to move away from the all-in-one thing and get the little box, get a nicer screen, and then once I've made that investment, the next Mac that I get, which will probably be in another 10 years' time, I don't have to. I can just stick with that format without the screen. So it's. But as you say, these things, once you buy a Mac, they just go and go and go. And I remember when I used to own PCs, every 2 or 3 years, I'm just going to upgrade this, I'm just going to upgrade that to keep it kind of going with all the software. So you don't really get that with a Mac. But it's a big debate that. So I've been looking in the chat. There's all these people that love them and hate them, but
I've got a 2017 MacBook Pro, and I've had a couple of issues with that, and it wasn't cheap. I think I paid like $3.5 for it, and it's what I use with the band gigging. I have main stage on it, but already I say already, it's 2017. It's getting on a bit, but to me, it's dead new. It's really new. I've only just finished paying for it. But one of the Thunderbolt ports, it's got this model's got 4 Thunderbolt ports on it, and one of them's died. It just I've done like an SMC reset and PRAM reset and all that, and just this one port won't come back to life.
That's weird.
So,
but they're not faultless. They do break. They do break down. They're as fallible as the next computer. But I mean, I've got a 2012 MacBook Pro that I bought secondhand a few years ago, and all I did was increase the size of the SSD, because it's the one where the SSD sits under the trackpad, so it's quite simple to do. And it's great for what I want to use it for. I wouldn't want to use it for multi-track live, performances, but certainly for what I want to use it for, it's really solid. So yeah, anyway, there you go. That's the new Mac Studio. It's out now. Starting price is at $2,000, and I think us over here in the UK, it's starting price of £2,000. I don't know how they justify that, because the exchange rate's pretty good in our favour at the moment. If you want to buy stuff from America, it's quite good in our favour, but Apple don't see it that way. But some might say that's a deliberate ploy. We wouldn't say that, of course. Couple more things before we sort of go to Mitchell and start talking all things Cherry Audio. Let's talk about a piece of new music software. If you are a Roland Cloud subscriber, then Roland announced this just the other day. Let's bring this in. This is the Roland Juno 60 Chorus, which is basically the effect taken out of the synthesizer and made into its own little plugin with all the features as you would expect. And you can even dial in the noise or dial it out if you so wish. There you go, so it's included in the Ultimate membership and the Lifetime membership as well. Roland Cloud's Juno 60 Chorus. It's not the first time that chorus effect has been taken and made into its own little plugin. Arturia did a version which I personally think is a bit better than this. And I think there are other instances of that. There was even, I think TC Electronic did a pedal, didn't they, with with the
they've done couple versions.
Yeah, so
they got it wrong the first time.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's it's a popular effect. Everybody likes. I think I've not heard anybody that doesn't, other than the fact that some people say it's noisy. Well, that's kind of the part of the quality of it. But with this, you can dial the noise out. So let's go to our plugin developer here. What are your thoughts on this Roland Juno 60 plugin? Is it a good thing?
Well, first of all, that promotional video definitely needs more 3D rendering.
Thank you. Yeah, I noticed that. I could do better than that in lightweight.
It's always weird.
I'm not even a pro. I mean,
and I understand it's always weird when you're trying to do promo videos for something that's flat and they want to make it look more fun and interesting, but it's like, well, it doesn't really look like this when you use it. But
could have done a couple of bump maps here and there.
It's a classic effect. Everybody loves it. Personally, I found in our research that the chorus built into their own 106 thing, I thought it was kind of like too much. It sounded really good, but way wetter and more watery and big than a real one. So I don't know if this is that. I guess you can adjust this a lot more. So, but no, it's a great thing. I mean, who doesn't love, rolling chorus?
Yeah, it's a very unique aspect of those synthesizers. Has been, certainly in the last year or so. We've seen all these different versions come out. I really did like the Arturia one, I have to say, which I think they gave away for free, didn't they, initially? And then it became part of their package. Ben, our resident 80s retro expert guy, this must be right up your street.
But I think Roland are the kings of chorus. The JC 120 amp, I presume, had similar circuitry in it, and that is a classic sound. And then the Juno 60 and the 106 and the 6 as well. A great sound. But as you say, Arturia's beat them to it in this one. The Arturia one's been out quite a while, and it sounds pretty authentic. I was really impressed. I couldn't download this myself because I've cancelled the Roland subscription. And I thought that they'd let me have a demo of it, but I couldn't seem to get hold of the demo. So I had to just listen to the audio demos, which I thought sounded really, really authentic. But I haven't used it, and I have got the Arturia one, so it's not enough to make me resubscribe to Roland Cloud. But I do think that the quality of the stuff that Roland do turn out in software is, it's pretty good.
It's good stuff.
It's got a great sound to it. So, what I've heard, I thought it sounds quite authentic. It sounds quite good. I like the fact that you can dial back the noise. I had a Juno 106 that didn't have the noise. I don't know. Really? I had two at the same time. I had one that had a noisy chorus and one that had a completely silent chorus. And I got a mate of mine to have a look at them, and he said, I said, can you make Synth A's chorus not be noisy like Synth B's? And he said the reason Synth B's not noisy is because the chorus is broke.
It breaks and improves.
Yeah, but it still made a chorus sound. It just didn't have the noise. So I don't know what's going on there.
Interesting.
They were slightly different. The two synths. They were both 106s, but one had a metal rocker switch for the portamento, I think, and the other one had a plastic one.
Oh, right.
So maybe there were slightly different revisions of it, but one chorus definitely didn't make a noise. I'm going off on a tangent here. It doesn't really matter, does it? But so this noise is kind of synonymous with the Juno chorus, and on this new plugin you can completely turn it off if you want to emulate my Row 106.
Yeah. Cool. There you go. They should call it the Ben Simpson mode with no noise. Kent, I know about your plugin effects library. Does this because you don't have Roland Cloud, do you?
No, I don't have Roland Cloud. But I must admit, though, if I had £1 for every time I had a customer come to me and say, "Can you make my chorus quieter?" I could retire. I mean, normally I'll go to the default. No, it's supposed to sound that bad.
Yeah.
it's character, whatever you want to call it, but there is a way of making the choruses quieter on the 60 on the Junos, but as a plug-in, I can think of better choruses to go for, to be honest.
Yeah.
Perhaps the ensemble unit from the VP330 Mark 1, Dimension D. I think they already do a Dimension D, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah. So
do Arturia.
Yeah. So it's kind of a. Well, judging by the CGI they did on that advert, they're not taking it that bloody seriously. That's for sure. They spent a whole hour putting that model together. I don't know. I don't know whether they really needed to even bother doing it, to be honest.
It does seem like they're playing catch up. It's like somebody else has done it, and it's our bloody chorus, so we're going to do it and throw it in. I mean,
it seems to have rushed.
Yeah,
seems to be the word that comes.
I wish they'd spent more time fixing the Roland Cloud Manager.
Yeah,
because that's the one
that needs work there.
Yeah, definitely. There you go. I just thought you'd like to see the rendering again.
That's just good God. They've got no bump mapping on the wood at all, so you don't get any wood grain.
No.
And everything's really sharp edges. The anti-aliasing is high, but they just
anyway.
No, oh dear.
So Juno 60 Chorus is available as an addition to the Roland Cloud, very extensive Roland Cloud library as it stands today. So if you're an Ultimate or Lifetime member, it is there included with the rest of your effects and your instruments out now. Couple more things. First of all, just a little piece of news here, but it's exciting because we haven't been able to gather in the UK for a major synth show for a good couple of years because of the before times. So this is the news that Synthfest UK is back. Hallelujah. 8th of October 2022 in Sheffield at the Octagon, as it always has been, apart from the last couple of years where they've had virtual events instead. So that the whole physical show is coming back at last. Cannot wait. It's one of my favourite weekends. I go up usually on the Friday, get an Airbnb just around the corner, and just nerd out for a day and a half with fellow synth people. Not sure what I'm doing this year because I know that I'll be working there in some respect. I don't know for whom yet, but I will be there. And there's been some people saying, "Oh, maybe we should have a Pro Synth Network gathering." So maybe that's something we could think about doing the evening before. Although that's usually reserved for the Sound on Sound gathering.
Who?
Those guys that pay all the bills. So maybe that is something we can do. We'll have to look into that. Maybe get some T-shirts and get some stuff printed up. But yeah, great news that Synthfest is back. Mitchell, I'm assuming you won't be coming to the UK just for this, or will you?
No, I have not been there. I'm afraid to get on a plane, but it would be tempting because cool synth show and Sheffield Human League. Right?
Exactly. It's the birthplace of British synth pop, really, isn't it?
League fan. Yeah.
And Phil Oakey is always there at load-in. He just literally walks in the back door and then just walks around and chats to everyone. And he's a very imposing figure. Yeah. But yeah, he's always there and around and about. Martin Ware was there a couple of years ago. So yeah, it is a proper Sheffield homecoming for lots of people. Nice. And Sheffield's a fantastic city. Yeah. So yeah, all good. Ben, Andrew, you said that you're gigging in Hull on the Saturday night, so you might be able to make it.
I'll do my best. Yeah, I'd love to go. It's Andrew Brooks's neck of the woods, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
He's got to go to that.
He's always there.
Yeah, I think I will try my best to get to it because I think it'd be really good to have a PSN meet-up if we can, and great to meet everybody in person.
Well, I'll have a word because obviously I work with the guys that organise this, and you never know. I might be able to sneak a little corner booth, and we can sell T-shirts or or stuff. We can sign autographs.
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know.
Well, if it's got a bar, Fiona will turn up.
Well, I was going to say, Kate, because obviously you don't turn up to these things because I don't know.
No,
Yeah. But you send your good lady wife over, and she does all the hard work for you. That's where I first met Fiona, and many years ago, propping up the bar in the corner of the Octagon, as she was wont to do, and lovely as she is. Are you going to be sending her up to hawk your wares and services?
it depends. I might put new brake pads on the Chrysler first before she drives up there.
Yeah, because the famous story, she drove all the way from Epsom to Sheffield with a handbrake on.
Yeah.
Bless her.
Smoke pouring out of the wheels.
Bless her.
People are flagging her down. Oi, your car's on fire.
Well, so it gives us something to talk about. Synthfest UK, 8th of October 2022. Be there or be, I don't know, just not very friendly.
Square wave.
Yeah, be there square, yeah, be there or be square wave. We did that last night, didn't we? A square wave is like this, isn't it?
Yes.
I should the day job.
Also, in other news, the Bob Moog Foundation Memorymoog winner was announced.
Oh, the Memorymoog, yes, yeah, it wasn't me.
Wasn't me. No,
wasn't
it wasn't
any of
me
us.
either.
Was it me?
It was some guy in Toronto, and congratulations to them because they've just won an awesome Memorymoog.
Yeah, she's a pretty one. She is a pretty one.
Very nice indeed. So yeah,
I've just entered that Rhodes.
Yeah,
Mark
me too.
8.
Yeah.
I think the link for that's in the group somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I put
I don't. I've got nowhere to put it.
Nor have I. But as I said to somebody in the group, they said, "Where are you going to put it?" And I said, "Well, the minute I turn up with it on the front door, my wife and children will leave me. Therefore, I have room."
Is that
win-win?
Is that something that would interest you, Mitchell, or are you more a synthy guy? Would
are you a
be
Rhodes guy?
Into a Rhodes?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having one. I actually worked for one of the dealers that sold the reissue that they did like 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And those things were just junk. I toured the factory. There was a whole thing. The guy who ran the company was really an oddball.
Oh, is that the Mark 7, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Mark 7, 8, I don't know. But they
I think
just
7,
hyped them like crazy, and we got them in, and we couldn't give them away because the action on those things was just horrifically bad. It was like a toy, it was like a toy you bought at a store made out of plastics. Keys would stick, and like it was so terrible. So I had such a bad taste in my mouth for those things. But yeah, I mean, everybody talks about these being they're really expensive, which I don't know, you get what you
it's a handcrafted instrument, isn't it?
They seem really nice. So sure, I'd love to have one, but they are a commitment.
So if you want to win, because Dan, who we had on the show, because this is the thing, we've got Dan Goldman and Dan Goldstein, and I always get the two mixed up, and I think I'm pretty sure I called Dan Goldman Dan Goldstein once.
Farberstein.
I know, it's just, but Dan Goldman, who is the CTO at Rose Music, is building 10 exclusive, like everything on them, the best quality, gold bits on them, and one of them can be won in this competition. So the links are floating around. Go and all you got to do is, it's one of those things where you just kind of you have to agree to like their Facebook page and visit their Instagram page, and you can for each one of those things you get an entry. So the more you do, the more chances you have of winning one of these beautiful instruments. Of course, if you want to know more about the Rhodes, then of course, to say Dan was on our show just the end of last year. So go and have a look at that. You can learn the entire Rhodes music story as it's been resurrected. I just want to put this up again. Last week we had the fantastic Dave Bryce on the show, and he created our very own ProSynth Network forum page over at the Music Player Network. So two networks merging. It's called Synergy, I think is what it's called. So we've got this there. So if you are into forums more than Facebook, please go over there. Join up. It's completely free of charge. And we're in the keys and synths section, as you might expect, of the Music Player Network. And we've got our own board there, and lots of people have joined up, and there's some conversations going there already. So just wanted to give that a mention. One more thing before we move on to all things Cherry Audio, and this one I think will probably interest a few people. This is the news that Buchla have now launched the 200 Classic Reissue series. Let me just get the video up on screen. We can play the promo for you here. Here we go. Add it to the stream. There we go. And let's have a listen.
Drinking water before bed burns.
Now we've got adverts.
In 2 weeks.
How cool is that?
Struggling to lose weight.
Go away, nasty adverts. Right, so this is the news of the Buchla 200 series classic reissue. There are 7 modules available. Let's bring these up so you can have a look at these. Now, I've got to admit, me and Modular, but we're not the greatest of friends. I'm not really into it at all. I appreciate the Buchla sound and the Buchla design. It's just not my cup of tea, as we say. And certainly some of the prices that these modules are, which are rather expensive, we'll talk about that in a minute, they're completely out of my league. So you've got the dual oscillator model 258, the quad function generator, the quad low pass gate, the source of uncertainty, which I just love the name of that, dual voltage processor, triple envelope follower, and mixer preamp. Now the prices of these, as you will see, let me just bring these up on the screen. So this is the oscillator itself is $1,000. Yeah, quite. I want to see how much the source of uncertainty is. That's $1,000 too. Not much.
Yeah,
about that.
I think they're all.
Are they all? So yeah, save me picking anymore. Yeah. So look, I mean, this is classic Buchla in the 4U. Am I correct? Is that the correct format? 4U.
Not a
goes. It's not Eurorack. Yeah.
Oh, no? It's not.
No, it's not. This is not. So because Tip Top have got this deal with Buchla where they're producing all the stuff in Eurorack. And this is proper full size, I guess, Buchla, whatever that might be. So yeah, seven 200 series modules, all released for $1,000 each. There you go. Mitchell, I know you're a modular guy, because if we were to be able to see to your right, we'd see a whole bunch of, look at that camera action.
Dun, dun, dun.
There you go, some nice stuff going on there. So, are you into Buchla at all? Are you a Buchla guy, or are you? I don't want to use the typical East Coast West Coast paradigm, but are you into Buchla at all?
No, I got to tell you, like all of you, we're all kind of synthesizer experts, I would think. But I, like a lot of people, I look at a Buchla module and I'm like, I don't know what this is. Like, how many of us do that? It's a whole subset unto itself. I'd be interested to explore it. But I think also it speaks to a guy who does really out there soundscape kind of weird music. And, I grew up on the Cars and ELO. So for me, I like a lot of people, I think it's not really in their wheelhouse. I think it's odd that they're doing 4U because that's obviously compatible with nothing. In these days, I think if you're not doing Euro or maybe even 5U, it's a silly proposition because it's just not. And especially with these modules, it seems odd because Tip Top is doing these great modules if you want that at really reasonable prices. So I don't know. I just don't know how much market there is for something that expensive and that specific.
I guess it's going to appeal to like the hardcore fans, I guess.
It's a mantra, isn't it?
Yeah, we need to get Mark. I was speaking to Mark Doty just the other day, and we are trying to get him back on. He's just gone through a whole big house move, so he's kind of all up in the air. But yeah, we're going to get him back on because obviously he works for Buchla. Maybe he can give us a bit more insight into into that. So watch this space.
Yeah.
Briefly to you guys, because I know this probably isn't in your purview at all.
I like the Buchla sound. I've got to be honest. I agree with Mitchell in that like every Buchla thing I've ever looked at has made very, very little sense to me. The easel, it's like I can't even make sense of that. It's like I'm not going to spend $1,000 per module on this. But there's no way, because that kind of investment, you've got to be 100% that it's the right thing to do, and I'd only be like 10% sure that it was the right thing to do. But the tip-top stuff, yeah, maybe, if that, you know, I might look into that, because I do like the sound of these things. They are very, what's the word?
Unique.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, unique, and they've got a character all of their own, haven't they?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. So if you can incorporate that into your own sound, I think that you'd be onto something great there. But not at that price for me. No way.
Yeah.
With that and the Mac. The Mac coming out. God.
Yeah.
I'd have to sell me van.
Yeah,
I
quite.
won't have enough then.
Yeah.
You do have an option though. There are options, because as you can see here, the dual oscillator the dual oscillator model has these large black knobs, and you can choose between those or the traditional, or more traditional, I guess, blue aluminium cap stuff, and you can pick and choose which I guess for $1,000 a model, you'd expect some kind of free upgrade, which these are free. You just choose which one. But these have been redesigned by Roman of Black Corporation, of course, who has done a number of wonderful things. But again, they're quite expensive as well. So he clearly, doesn't cut corners. But it'd be interesting to learn a little bit more about this. So we will try and get Mark on at some point. But there you go, Buchla series, Buchla 200 series classic reissues available to order right now. So yesterday there was a little video that was released on YouTube. Let me play this for you now, because this will lead nicely into our guest. This was launched, or this teaser was launched just yesterday.
My Dreamsynth, it would have the fatness of vintage analog with the clarity of classic digital.
I would want my Dreamsynth to really cover all the bases, and I want to be able to play everything with it.
My Dreamsynth, I want to be inspired every time I turn it on.
Dreamsynth, coming March 17th from Cherry Audio. And of course, we have Cherry Audio's own Mitchell with us today. Dreamsynth. What's your Dreamsynth?
Wow, putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
I think as a company representative, the product you just saw a preview of.
Very good.
Honestly, I mean, really, it was, I don't want to take too much credit, because everything we do is a team effort for sure, but it was kind of put to me like at some point, hey, just make the thing you think would be really fun to have that we haven't really done.
Cool.
So there was like a thing where I didn't have too much guidance, and I just started drawing it. And so it comes out soon, so I guess I can give away a fair amount. The inspiration for this was like that really cool era of the 90s where everybody kept one-upping each other and coming out with a cool new digital analog hybrid. Yeah. And so things like PPGs and Korg Wave Station was my first real big boy synthesizer.
Right.
And I just loved that thing. Although it, obviously didn't have real filters or any filter to speak of. So, so the idea was to do something that was digital oscillators and PCM samples, and combining that with a really awesome analog filter, which I don't want to give away right now.
Sure.
What it is, but basically it was that idea. Also, the idea of like D50 type synthesis, where you've got like an attack transient type sound that you could combine with sustaining PCM waveform. And doing that with a great deal of oscillator horsepower, the ability to mix between those and modulate in very cool ways, and a ton of modulation and a ton of effects with a ton of modulation. And did I mention modulation?
Yeah.
And,
does it have any modulation? Yeah, go for it.
I gotta jump out really quick. I'll jump back in my. No, sound's going insane again. So I'm sorry.
No worries. That's fine.
Sorry. I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
No problem. Yeah. So there's a bit of an exclusive, everyone. The new synth from Cherry Audio, which comes out next Friday, so we'll be able to talk about it. I think next Friday is seemingly. Whoops! I've lost my control here. Sorry. Hang on. It's seemingly something new and original, which is very interesting. Because Mitchell, in the past, all of your plugins have been homages, shall we say, to some of the greats. And what I really like, I think I speak for a number of people here, is that you've not just gone for the obvious stuff. I mean, you've got the memory mode, and you've got the Polymoog thing, and then there's the realistic or surrealistic. Sorry. So some of them are like little odd, quirky things that we wouldn't have necessarily thought about seeing in a plugin. And then you've done some really great ones. The DCO 106 with its obvious leanings towards the Juno. And the Moog stuff, and the Mercury 4, which is one of my favourites. What else? Of course, the Quadra. Who could forget the Quadra? That was that came out of nowhere. And I thought, wow, that's a really cool one. So, tell us, what's the kind of company ethos about what you pick to do? I mean, you say with this new one that you were kind of like given carte blanche to come up with something really new and unique. But what goes through the process at Cherry Audio in picking some of these instruments that you've been doing?
Because we're not a huge company, it's usually just a few of us, me and Dan and James Terrace, who's our main sound programmer. He's sort of in charge of all the programmers, and or the sound creators, not designers.
Sure.
And I mean, really, it's like you guys. We sit around and shoot the breeze and go, hey, we should make this. And they go, nah, it'd be dumb. Nah, somebody made that already. Or, somebody made it really good. Or, oh, well, the version that's out is 100 years old and it's crap. Or no one's done this instrument. And we love this instrument. It really is just that. There's nothing more to it. And whoever makes the most noise about what we should do, we end up doing. And, things, they're all different. Like the Quadra is like, hey, no one's done a Quadra. Well, the real thing's kind of a turd. Could we fix it up a little bit and make it a little bit, because there's all sorts of different things. There's instruments that everybody knows and loves. If you do a Juno 106, everybody's played a Juno and they know what it sounds like and they know what to expect. And so that's one way to do it. And if you do something like a Quadra, the joke we have is we can make it sound however we want because no one's really played one, or if they've seen one, it's broken. But I mean, of course, we do what we can to make it sound as close to the original as possible. But the Quadra is a good example. This comes up a lot, where if we made it exactly like the real thing, people would hate us because the real one is so crappy in so many ways. It has so many weird quirks that aren't right that you can just tell were mistakes and them rushing it through. So you end up making a lot of decisions of okay, how do I improve it? But how do we keep it, obviously faithful to the original, but how do we make it better and get around some dumb things about the original? So it's a lot of, I guess, getting back to your question, it really just comes down to, hey, we like this thing and we'd like to see one and nobody's made one. Or somebody did one, 15 years ago and it's 32-bit and it looks like garbage and it sounds like garbage and we could do this better.
Yeah. And one of the things that often comes up in discussions when we've been talking about your products, because every time you launch something, we always cover it because they're really great plugins, but also I think the main thing that hooks people is the amazing price that you're able to put these out at. $39 usually is the standard list price, but then when you launch it, you knock a percentage off of that even more. So it's just, you'd be stupid not to buy this, even if you only used it a few times. But when you fire it up, they're actually really, really good plugins. So is there a drive to deliver quality plugins at a really affordable price, or what's the kind of
Yeah, I mean, the company ethos really is great synths at a price everyone can afford. And, there's a couple things that go into that. There's no inherent cost to software, right?
Sure.
I think a lot of people, it's a hard concept to think about. It's not like a guitar over there where the wood costs a certain amount and good wood costs more. Well, I always say, like, there's no such thing as expensive zeros and ones and cheap zeros and ones. They're just zeros and ones. And as long as you do well enough on it as a company to make the time investment worth it, we can keep making them. It doesn't, we are not making boxes or CDs or printing instruction manuals. So we just do what makes sense, and we try to have it at a price point where people just go, oh, that looks cool, I'll buy it. It's not like a $200 instrument where you're like, well, that looks cool, but I don't know, $200. Like, and there's nothing more to it. I've seen things on forums where it seemed like it was some crazy insidious thing, or they're just sticking the same, graphics or different graphics on the same engine, and what we're not. It's not like that. So that's it. I mean, we just want people to buy it. That's how it comes down.
Well, I mean, I've got to hold our hands up. When we've been discussing your instruments, we're like, how can they put all these great quality things out for like $39? What's going on here? Is it a like off the shelf thing? Just throw it together and put a nice interface on there, or is it just small company with great values that's putting out stuff and it's the latter rather than the former?
Yeah, it's a small operation. I mean, it's not tiny, but it's compared to, we're not a giant company. We have a facility in California, but it's pretty small. Mainly, we all work remote. You can see I'm at home right now. We're basically a Slack and Skype kind of company.
Yeah.
So we don't have a huge overhead. That's part of it. We do have some proprietary tools that we use to develop that allow us to do things quicker. But I can absolutely say it's not just slapping different graphics on the same thing. It's not. I always tell people, if you don't believe me, stick our oscillators on an oscilloscope, and you don't have to believe me. They all look different. So it's not like that. We also, the other thing that people don't realize, like, we release stuff pretty quickly. We're always working on multiple things, so it's not like we're starting from scratch every time. I'm drawing an instrument right now that will not come out for probably 9 months.
Sure.
So we're always kind of like simultaneously juggling a bunch of things at once.
Yeah. Can I just say to everyone in the chat, if you have a question for Mitchell, anything regarding Cherry Audio or Mitchell's career as well, please do throw them into the chat, and myself, Ben, will pick those up and ask. Just the other week, you released a new product called Rack Mode Signal Processors. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so I'm going to have to remember all these off the top of my head. I probably should pop it open. So this was an homage to, thank you, these Moog rack mount effects that they made mid to late 70s. I don't know if they went into the 80s with these. And probably the flagship of the bunch was this 16-channel vocoder, which I actually have one sitting over there on the floor, if you can believe that. And, a lot of folks don't know about them. I think they're just kind of these weird underdog things. The vocoder, as you can imagine, was pretty expensive. And they did that phaser. The phaser sounded really, really good. I think it was sort of a forerunner of the Moog Foger phaser. So the phaser sounds amazing. They did a phaser. They partnered with Harold Bodie. I hope I'm saying that right. I always say it wrong. But,
I think is it Boda?
Boda, thank you.
Yeah, I think
Bodie's gonna freak on me.
And we have an expert German speaker in the chat room who will guarantee to tell us if we got it right or wrong.
I'm American, well, I don't know. I think it's Boda. American's stupid. Anyway, so Harold Boda did the vocoder, and there's actually versions out there with his library, to use your British term. And he also did this ring modulator. And I'm sorry, not the ring modulator. He did the frequency shifter. So anyway, yeah. So there's a ring modulator, there's a frequency shifter. There's this oddball Moog string filter, which was again a rarity from Moog. It was intended that you could stick like a thin pulse wave through it, and it would apply this elaborate filter curve, which would make it sound more like a string, like orchestral strings. And we added a bunch of controls because we found that by adding controls, we could do all sorts of interesting things with it. So Mark Barton, I should mention, coder extraordinaire, did the code for all these. And the guy is just a total genius code guy. He's so incredible at analyzing circuits, and he's the kind of guy you can just hand him a schematic and you don't even need to give him the original thing, but better if you do. But if you hand him a schematic, he'll give you back something that sounds exactly like the real thing.
Nice.
So he coded all of these. There are also a couple EQs in there. There was a graphic EQ and a parametric EQ. So it's this package that has all of them. They are all separate entities. I know that picture that you were showing before has thrown a couple people for a loop because they think it's one giant thing, but they're actually all separate things. We just made the graphic of them all put together. The vocoder, I should get back to real quick. I know I'm jumping around a little bit. The vocoder comes in two versions. It comes in this version, which has a built-in oscillator bank with a very interesting, if you can see that waveform at the bottom that it's switched to, it's got this kind of vocal, they call it a glottal waveform that sounds very much like a human voice. So that's very cool. The vocoder sounds really great. And there's an instrument version of it that you can play the synthesizer part as an instrument and sidechain to control it. And there's also a fully just effects version where you can run something through it and run a sidechain into it. So both sources can be whatever you want, which is kind of unique. I don't think anybody else is making one. Well, maybe there's else one, but that's kind of an unusual feature.
Because there's actually a question in the chat there. Is this a new rack format? Which you've just explained. This isn't.
I'm so sorry. Let me jump out again real quick. My sound's going insane.
Sure, no problem. Koshtakai was asking there in the chat, is this a new rack format with more devices in the future parallel to the voltage modular stuff? So Mitchell, as you just explained, you're kind of showing these in a rack mount, but these are all individual units rather than something that is closer to voltage modular stuff. Cool. Right. So that's that one.
You'll probably see. We may well port it over though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another question from James Dyson. What do you think is the hardest hardware synth or effects to emulate in software? Maybe it's something you've already done.
That's a good question. I don't know if there's a specific instrument that's hard to do per se, as much as there are aspects that are hard to do in any instrument. In my opinion, the hard thing to get right is synths that kind of run hot. Things like the Memorymoog, and mini Moogs and that kind of thing, and a lot of the American synths, because they've got some internal distortion and gain staging and stuff, and that the interaction, especially with a polysynth, that's hard to nail down, because once you start getting into this wild frontier of things distorting internally, it goes beyond just make an oscillator and a filter and put them together and voila, it sounds like it. I think that's the harder stuff to emulate. With that said, I'm not the DSP guy, so fortunately, it's not my problem. I'm the drawer guy. I draw things and I design them and say, make it do this, and it's not my problem, which is why I have the cool job. But I think that's probably it. I don't know, off the top of my head, I don't know if there's any specific instrument style or type that's hard to do. Pure analog synthesis is always challenging to get it to sound really right. Doing an FM style synth isn't that hard to do because, FM is inherently digital. I think probably that would be the answer.
Nice. Ben, were there any other questions that were coming through in the chat?
Grace asked any particular special characteristics about the parametric and graphic EQs that distinguish them from the others.
They have a drive control in them, which it wasn't really if you read the manual, it actually says it's for optimizing the frequency response. It's not to make it distort, but we made it a little hot, so it does distort a bit and has kind of a sound to it. So it's a unique design. It's not, it's not an EVQ kind of thing. It's not that kind of thing, but it does have a sound to it for sure. It's all op amps of the era, which are the slow and sluggish op amps of that era. So it has a sound to it, and we did definitely try to make it emulate that properly.
Yeah. And David,
I have a question.
Oh, sorry. I was just
Can
going
I?
to. Yeah, go on. No, go on, Kent. Right, well,
Obviously, these two.
Oh, darling. No,
no, I want to
go.
go.
You go.
Right, well, David asked, is there any consideration for iOS? Because there is a big market for like the mobile music making kind of thing. Is that something that Cherry Audio might look at in the future?
I wouldn't rule out anything. There's two factors that weigh into that. The first factor, if I'm being really honest, is that we aren't into it that much. I have to be honest. It does feed into it a little bit what our interests are, although we're not making things for ourselves completely. We understand there's a market that wants certain things, but the nature of our programming tools and platform is such that, to my understanding, and again, I'm not a coder, so I'm not speaking the gospel here, but my understanding is it's not very easy to move it over to that, which is, it's not too hard for us to get things back and forth between voltage and standalone instruments, but it really doesn't work out too well to go to iOS. So if it was easy to do, we'd probably do it, but because it's not, and then there's a whole other can of worms of that, where like, okay, well, we sell this for $30, and if you sell it for iOS, somebody's going to expect it to be $2 or something. So there's that whole issue too. That could change in the future, but for now, no.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And by the way, the guy that asked that question, David Serchek, thank you for your donation. Much appreciated. You didn't have to donate to ask a question, but if you want to, that's fine with us. Thank you very much indeed for that. Kent, over to you. So you have a question.
I do. Oh, yeah. I haven't got any money, though. What about the 12-stage phaser? Does it perchance have the facility to have the sweep controlled by a envelope?
No. It has an LFO, but there's no external control of the sweep. Although if we did do a voltage version of that in the future,
then I would want your children. I'd have your children, no trouble. If you did just that.
Yes, that is, if we did that, it would. But as it stands, the rack mode version, you just have the LFO for the sweep. Right. But I should go off on a small tangent about that. That thing's really crazy, that phaser, because I designed a phaser for voltage a while ago, the hex phaser, and it definitely made me delve deep into phaser design. And you can actually, I designed it in voltage actually with a bunch of all-pass filters, and you can do all kinds of crazy experiments with those if you're really nerdy. And there are very few phasers on the planet that let you actually select the feedback point, because a phaser, when you turn up the feedback, it goes through part of the network. And long story short, hex phaser and the rack mode phaser let you do a lot to select where that feedback point is. And you can get between that and selecting the overall number of stages, it makes so many sounds, unlike most phasers where it's like, okay, on, off, intensity. It's, if you haven't checked it out, you really should. It makes so many sounds and they're all cool. And the only bad thing about it is you're like, man, I don't know which one to use because they're all so cool, but it has a lot of colors. So
Right.
So you mentioned voltage modular there. So excuse my ignorance, which came first, the plugins or voltage modular? Because there does seem to be a lot of cross-pollination. You'll develop something, you'll develop a module for the modular thing, and then it'll appear as an individual plugin for just regular plugin users. And similarly, you've just said there that rack mode goes the other way as well, or will be going the other way.
Not for sure, but
Sure,
probably.
Yeah. But there's it's certainly so. It's kind of like what came first, chicken or egg. Do you prefer designing the smaller plugins? Do you like designing the voltage modular stuff?
Well, okay. So to answer your first question, voltage modular definitely came first. And personally, I like doing the big instruments. If only for the reason that voltage modular, the limitation isn't so much in facility as it is in footprint. Those are 360 pixels high, and there's certain things it has to have, and you don't want to make a module that's 9 feet wide. So there's sort of some inherent things, and just because it's a modular synth, you want things more in little parts most of the time. Ultimately doing the big instruments is more rewarding. But they're both fun, and they're both, there's no sound fidelity difference, and they appeal to a different kind of personality. And it's been a learning process for us. We didn't really necessarily know that, going in, I don't think we realized why wouldn't everybody want voltage modular? It does everything. But then you remember because everybody isn't a total nerd, and a lot of people, as soon as they see a patch cable either on a screen or in real life, right? Nope, I don't want to deal with that mess. So they both have their place for the customer and on the design side of things.
And is there also a restriction when you're doing stuff for the modular that you've got to make sure that it interacts with everything else that you've already got? Whereas with a standalone plugin, you can just do that, and it's kind of its own self-contained thing. But when you're doing a module, no, there's no consideration for
not too much, not really. Other than I think, and again, this sort of gets out of my department, but overall CPU horsepower, you got to be conscious of the fact that somebody's running 17 other modules, so you can't make something that's a giant hog. But even that hasn't been too much of an issue. I know there were some things in the past with the what are they called? The module. We had some modules that had built-in waveforms, and we couldn't put a giant library into it because we didn't want the second you loaded that thing to take this giant chunk of memory, that kind of thing.
Sure.
The air stuff. I'm sorry. But there's not too many limitations. And again, I take no credit for this. The voltage architecture is pretty powerful and pretty open and pretty not limited.
Yeah. And there's lots of cool free stuff to get you started, and then you can start picking the bits.
I gotta jump out again. I'm really sorry.
No problem.
Back in 2 seconds. Okay.
Ben, we got some more questions in there. Obviously, we have yet. Let's just wait for Mitchell to come back.
Yeah, there's a couple. I've got one of my own as well.
Oh right, we'll do that as soon as he comes back in.
Yeah.
Here he is. Back in the room.
Yeah.
So Ben, you had a question.
Mitchell, I've got a question, because what you're doing day to day seems to me to be like you're living the dream, man. This is what I want to do. It really is. I'm a graphic designer. I mess with synths all day. And if somebody said to me, I was like this when Axel Hartman was on. It was like if somebody said
Axel.
to me, design a synth, I'd be like, wow, yeah. Right, I'll jack my job in, I'll do it. But we're not paying you, I don't care. Right, I'll pack it all in because this is what, and I love it. So I wondered if maybe you could use a case study kind of thing on one of your releases, and just basically describe the process. Who came up with the? Say if we went with the memory mode, who came up with the original idea? What was your involvement in it? And how did it progress from there? Just to give us an idea of how a Cherry Audio release is born.
Kind of thing. This doesn't go for Voltage, because Voltage was very clearly thought through and very much developed with the owner of the company and Dan, and it was like a really serious thing because they knew it would be a big move for the company because it was the beginning of Cherry Audio altogether. But as for the individual instruments, I almost don't even want to talk about it because it's so embarrassingly lame that you would laugh. There's no board meeting and a long table and guys in suits like having a marketing study. It's not like that. It's literally me and Dan and James going, hey, we should make this. And and there are definitely instruments that some of us are more excited about than others. You can see my Polymoog over there, so you can guess whose idea Polymoog was. I'll use that as an example, right? I love Polymoogs. I've always wanted one, and I was always afraid to buy one because they blow up. And long story short, I found a really nice one, and I had it restored by the guy here, Jared Lackey, who's just the king of all things.
He's a member of the group.
Okay, so he went over mine that was hypothetically already restored, and they did a crummy job. It's in immaculate condition. And anyway, this isn't about that. So of course, I'm like, we really need to make a Polymoog. And so different people, I guess, Dan's excited about different instruments than I am, and James, usually we like the same kind of stuff. But Dan and I are really different, which is good. We're very different kinds of players. We have he likes like Chicago and Billy Joel, and I like Human League and Heaven 17 and and Pink Floyd. So that's a good thing. We come from very different areas. He has a huge collection of vintage instruments. I have a medium collection. So we're both very enthusiastic. We're like little kids about this stuff. So it's always like, oh, can we make this? Can we make that? So getting back to it, with the Polymoog, I really wanted to do that instrument. But in that case, kind of like what I talked about with the Quadra, there's a lot of weird things about a Polymoog if you've ever played one. So we wanted to change the design to make it easier to understand and easier to deal with, but keep the sound. And so in that case, we decided, okay, we're going to do it. And Dan literally just will say to me, okay, go do it. And I just start drawing. And honestly, probably real companies, well, we're a real company, but real designers probably like sit there and draw everything and come up with a list of features and like really go through and make a brief and then give it to the graphic artist who knows what they're doing. And we're not like that at all. Like literally Dan will be like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do Polymoog.
Yeah.
Okay. And I open up Illustrator and I just start drawing things.
Okay.
And that's literally what happens. Now, the way our design system works, fortunately, a lot of the individual elements like switches and knobs and buttons and all that stuff, a lot of the time we'll have it from something else we made, which makes my life a lot easier. And I just start putting it together, and then I send it to the guys, and I'm like, hey, what do you think? And then everybody sort of chimes in, and they're like, oh, well, you forgot to do this, dummy. And I stick it in, or we'll debate about a feature. And sometimes it gets pretty heated because you know how this can get. You do this show. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, well, it doesn't need that. Yeah, it does. People will want that. No, they won't. This is stupid. And so there's a lot of that, just your standard Pickering development. And then eventually I get it all put together and assembled in our proprietary Tinker Toy program, I like to call it. Where again, it's sort of like a graphical interface. I don't have to really code too much. And then I hand it over to Dan, and sometimes other people at the company do some DSP stuff as well. And that's it. And we just start going back and forth. It's, I mean, going to the marketing route, obviously there's a fair amount of discussion of like, okay, well, are people going to want this? And that's always the question. You can't predict that. So obviously we consider that angle. There's some element of, hey, this is cool and we want this. And of course there's the element of like, okay, well, we want this. Does somebody else want this? And some of them are no-brainers. If you do it, when we did the 106, the DCO 106, everybody loves Junos. It's a no-brainer. But when you do some of the more obscure stuff, even the Quadra, we weren't sure. Like, I don't know, most people have played a Quadra. They don't know what it is. But it did really well for us. Turns out there's a lot of Genesis fans. For me, it was like, I didn't Joy Division use one. So I guess that kind of covers. I don't know if that's a full answer.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Well, there was another question from Synth Addy, which kind of relates to what you were just talking about there. So, wants to know what your opinion is of skeuomorphism.
I'll do 4 hours on this one.
Tempting to make a soft synth look like the hardware, but new designs can be nice and clean too.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm in the middle. Is the answer. I'm kind of right in the middle of it. I don't like things that are completely flat and the knobs are circles. I know it doesn't sound any different, but everybody likes to see some eye candy.
Yeah.
I don't mind skeuomorphism. I don't really like super 3D'd out interfaces, and I know that's kind of goes against the grain of what's popular in the industry. What I always say is I don't like instruments where the knobs are kind of going like that when you look across the interface. To me, it looks like everything's bent, literally, like you just bent the shafts.
Yeah.
And although it looks impressive in a shot, when you see something that's just super 3D, I don't like using it. I think ultimately a flat interface is more satisfying to use and easier. And when they go nuts with shadows and angles and reflections, to me it's too much. As a result, our stuff's pretty flat by and large, and it may not look as impressive as seeing this super crazy rendered 3D thing, but ultimately I prefer using something relatively flat. But I don't mind. That said, I don't mind when the rest of it looks correct. I'm a super stickler for fonts being correct. I'm a super stickler for controls looking as they're supposed to. So that stuff we really strive to get right.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions there, Ben? Oh, he's gone. I'll do that. So let's carry on. I think he's I don't know, he's gone for a bathroom break. What have we got here? Any thoughts of extending your standalone synths into hosts for voltage modular modules?
Like actually opening modules within the instruments, or
sounds like it, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Say, for example, you took the Mercury 4, but then you had some space to drop in voltage modular modules to then, kind of make your own unique Mercury 4, for example. I think. Yeah,
I mean, it's not a terrible idea. It wouldn't be super easy to do. It would require, some major reworking, and honestly, it's hard to say. This is a perfect example of like an idea that's pretty cool for tweakers, including me, and that would be awesome, and you could do a lot of stuff with it. But as a company, I think we might be worried that 9 people would like this feature.
Sure.
So I think the better answer to that, I don't know if better is the right word, but the more realistic answer on our end would be, it would be easier for us to take the individual components of something like that and bust them out into voltage modules. And of course, the person who asked the question, they probably already know this, but we do have that plugin host module for voltage, which lets you open any of the, any VST you like. Not just Cherry stuff, anybody. And that you can do a whole lot with that, especially because the plugin host lets you take any of the controls in the instrument or effect you're hosting, and you can assign controls to them. So and you can voltage control those by plugging patch cords in. So that really lets you do a lot of stuff. So I think that's probably the realistic answer for now. I don't know if it's something we'd really pursue.
Sure. James asked a question in the chat, and then is this Dan running the Cherry Audio chat responses in the I don't know, it's Dan or another member of the Cherry Audio team, but James said, do you think one day you'll get into doing hardware? To which the Cherry Audio account responded, no! At the moment that's the proposal for April 1st. So maybe something to look forward to there. But seriously though, I mean, would you personally, I mean, you obviously the company has a direction and a plan, but would you personally love to see, a piece of Cherry Audio hardware? Because other companies have done that. Arturia started off as a software company, now doing fantastic bits of hardware. Is that something that you as an individual would like to happen maybe?
And now my audio is messing up again.
Okay.
Here he goes. That would be cool, wouldn't it? Because Arturia have done some really cool stuff. Obviously massive in the software realm, and then brought it back into hardware. So it would be interesting. So, would you like to do hardware?
Well, you said personally, sure, but it's much more difficult for so many reasons. As a designer, I got to worry about what's on the back. I just just throw all the crap on the front. It just works. No, I know that from doing, like, I've designed my own 5-unit modules. And it's always like, oh yeah, crap, there's a pot on the back of that, huh?
Yeah.
But to answer your question, it would be great to do, but we're not a huge company, and it would be a big leap to do that. And honestly, it's a much more difficult thing. Obviously, when you have to make or have things made, and you've got inventory, and you've got, you know, parts that you have to get, as everyone's seeing right now, where you can't even get parts to make things. That's a scary proposition. It would be fun to do at some point for sure. I'd like to do it. But I can't say if we would. It would certainly be cool to do.
Yeah, cool. So apparently the person running the Cherry Audio chat is Robert from marketing. Robert St. John, marketing grunt.
No. There's your answer.
There you go. But he's enjoying the show, which is fantastic. So thank you for contributing also, because Robert's been answering some of the questions in the chat as well. So that's been very, very useful. Thank you, Robert.
Awesome. He's recently come on board, and he's also a hardcore, you know, he's got a System 100.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. There is also there was a shout out for you from a guy called Brian Fuller. Met Mitchell in downtown Dayton, Ohio, when he was playing with Berlin at St. Paddy's Day gig. Started out by buying the JP4, and now he owns the Quadra, Memorymoog, Polymoog, and the free MG1 as well. So
all right,
you have a fan. Yeah. So guys, anything else?
I was just wondering. You know, I mentioned design before. I was just wondering, from your own personal perspective, which is the product that you're most proud of, visually more than anything, not sonically so much.
Wow. Probably Memory Mode. Yeah. And the reason is because you know, if you really look at it, Memory Moogs are an interesting instrument. They've got all those, you know, kind of recessed panels. The aluminum kind of thing that goes around. I don't know how much regular quote unquote users are looking at things this way, but you know, if you look at something like the Quadra, it's completely flat and the buttons are colored rectangles. But this, if you look at it, it's got all this recessed panels, it's got a lot of shading on it, and it's got kind of these divots, and it's the most 3D looking thing I've done. And so I've sort of been coming along with all that stuff. Our graphic designer at the company, Alan, is really, really talented, and he's the guy who makes a lot of like the knobs and the switches and stuff. And I've learned a great deal from him. So thank you, Alan. And come along just doing all this, starting to do the 3D skeuomorphic stuff. So that's probably, it was sort of a step for me visually to have something look like that.
Also, from a business point of view, you keep saying that like Cherry Audio has a smallish concern by probably like Native Instruments or Arturia's standards, but from what I can see looking in, it's been very successful. What you've done seems like it's like nearly everybody that like pipes up in a chat or whatever, they've got a Cherry Audio synth. You know, it's like everybody's really embraced this and took it on. Has the company matched or exceeded your expectations, and how big is it going to get? Are we, you know, have you got expansion plans? Are you quite happy to keep things the way that they are? And
I can only answer that question to a limited degree because it's not my company per se.
Yeah.
But it's certainly, you know, we had no idea what it was going to be like starting out. Certainly the VST instruments, when we started doing DCO 106 and the 2600 and all those, exceeded our expectations. You know, we sort of had some projections of like, well, if we could do this, it would be really good. And it's done really well. Pretty much every instrument has done pretty well for us. Yeah. So that's been, you know, very pleasant surprise. And I'm sure for the owner of the company, I'm sure he was quite relieved. But as far as expanding goes, you know, we haven't talked about it a great deal. It's hard because we're at a sort of good clip right now. And the question is, how do you expand? Well, you know, the core guys who do the instruments there's basically really 3 of us doing the instruments, although there's more people at the company doing other things. But unless we add people, unless we hire you, I don't know. You know, I'm not sure how we expand from here, because given the current team, we can't put out more stuff than we do. If anything, we're going too quickly. And the hard part isn't even necessarily getting it made and developed and working. It's that then when that's done, you got to market it, and you got to make videos, and you got to make a web page, do all that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff. Get it out to artists, and so and get sounds programmed for it. Which again, we have James Terrace doing a fabulous job heading that up, and he's greatly expanded the programming team with some amazing programmers. So there's a lot of things you got to do to put out a product. So would we like to expand? Yes, but forgetting the personnel side, how many products are you going to put out? You know, we're putting stuff out probably more quickly than almost anybody, and you know, we don't want to put out a product every month, every 3 weeks. People are like, more crap from that. You want to keep it respectable. I won't mention any other company names, but so I'm not sure, to be honest. Fortunately, it's not my dang problem. I just keep drawing stuff.
Brilliant.
Well, I think, Ben, you've done a good job of getting your kind of job application in there. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
Man, I gotta say, like I always say, like they can't fire me ever. I can do anything because they can't find anybody to replace me. How many guys are there like know the history of synthesizers up and down and can draw it in Illustrator and figure out how it works?
I'm coming.
And I'm like, well, I guess there's more guys. I guess that answers my question. So now I'm not.
There's one more.
Bastard.
So look, that's just a fabulous insight into the company. It's something we've been longing to have, and it's why we asked Dan and got you on, and we certainly haven't been shortchanged in any respect, but we really have been very fascinated with what you guys have been doing. Very happy with the stuff you're putting out. It's always really good. Let's say it's affordable, everyone can get into it and have lots of fun making great music with great software synths. Well, let's talk a little bit about you, Mitchell. We have a question in the chat room, and I kind of wanted, because I'm kind of a closet Berlin fan, so I kind of want to know how that all came about. And Andy, who goes by the name of Synth Addict in the chat, said he was asking about when you played with them and that kind of thing. So can you tell us a bit about how the whole Berlin gig came around?
So to answer the question, I see I did not play the Lost 80s tour. That is after me. So I want to acknowledge, like, I don't want to be like the guy who played football in college and high school. Like, it's been a while. I played with him from 2000 to 2007. And to answer your question about how that came about, the short version is living in Los Angeles, but the long version is I was playing in a unknown band that was trying to get signed. The singer was friends with the guitar player. Just she happened to know him,
right? And
so their keyboardist they had at the time was going on tour with Dio, I think, something like that for the summer, and they needed a sub. So they basically just did a cattle call, called every keyboard player they collectively knew in the band. I was a fan of the band from a kid. Berlin was actually the second concert I ever went to.
Wow.
The Royal Oak Music Theater in Michigan.
Nice.
So I was a big fan of the band. I knew all the stuff. I had the records. I had been playing it on my Casio keyboard since I was 13. And so I'm like, this is great. I had never been in a national band. I thought I was a shoo-in. So I learned the stuff they wanted me to learn. I went in for the rehearsal, and I was like one of a bunch of guys. And Terry Nunn, the singer, thought I just didn't like me at all. So,
wow.
I mean, I know I played well, but she just, for whatever reason, she didn't like me.
Oh, no.
And that went on for a good 7 years. She didn't like me. So
wow.
No, I mean, we always had that kind of, I mean, we eventually came to terms, but yeah, so that's how it happened. Actually, so the reason why I got the gig though was because the guitar player, Dallin, he went to her, and he wasn't even really my friend, but he just knew what a synthesizer nerd I was and how into the band and new wave I was. And he was like, "This is the guy. Like, this is your guy. This guy isn't a jazz. I wasn't a jazz guy. I'm not like a virtuoso. But if you want a guy who can play 80s synth music, I'm your guy." Yeah. So he put it to her that way, and I was brought on for a summer, and then it just kind of led to like, hey, this guy seems to know his stuff, so we're going to keep him around. And it was just like all the things that happen in life that are life-changing career things, you know, as a musician, you just sort of fall into them sideways, much as I did with Cherry Audio, which is the same kind of like sideways thing. Yeah. So.
Were you part of just the live act of Berlin, or did you do studio work with them as well?
No, I did. We did a couple records at the time, and because I was a guy who had a studio and produced and recorded and did all that stuff, I just fell into that, and I wrote with her. And I mean, we didn't have any big hit singles in the 2000s, but I definitely did a bunch of stuff with them. Whenever we did like a unplugged radio show or something, I was the guy who got dragged along, and I'd play acoustic guitar and whatever.
Sure.
So I was kind of the, I guess you call me the MD. Whipping boy. Yeah.
A couple of questions in the chat. Jim says, did you have anything to do with the Big F? And Brian's asking, how about Celebutant?
Okay, thank you. My audio is messing up again.
Okay.
Is it okay, I'll be right back.
No worries. So Mitchell's been having some issues with his audio, so he kind of intermittently has to pop out if you've just joined us and wonder why our guest is nipping out. He will be back in just a few seconds' time.
I reckon he's lying. I reckon he's going off researching it on
Mitchell's Googling. That's it. That's what he's doing. Google the answer.
I have answers to all these questions. Big F, I know about Big F, and Celebutant was my band, so I don't need to Google it. So Big F, just for everybody who doesn't know, was the project that John Crawford from Berlin, who was the founding member of Berlin with Dave Diamond. I can't remember if Dave was involved, but John Crawford from Berlin was the songwriter guy. He wrote all the tunes, super talented guy. And he did this thing called Big F when Berlin fell apart in circa 1987, I want to say. It's somewhere around there. And I had nothing to do with it. That's about a decade before my time with Berlin. So definitely not, although I did end up meeting those guys. I've been trying to buy a synth. I've been trying to buy a PPG from Dave Diamond for about 2 years now.
Nice.
Bastard to sell that thing to me. He's got.
Is it just the Wave, or is it the Wave term as well?
No, it's a 2.3. He's got a 2.3 and a Matrix 12 sitting under his bed that he hasn't touched in 20 years.
I hate those people. Hate those people.
I'm gonna make it happen. It will happen. And I got to meet all those guys when there was this whole VH1 Bands Reunited show, and John's a sweetheart. He's a really great guy. They're both really cool guys, so that was great to get to meet those guys. So no, nothing to do with Big F. Moving along, somebody inquired about Celebutant. Celebutant was my sort of solo act, side project thing I did that I started somewhere around, I don't know, 2000s-ish. And very much what you might expect, very electro pop kind of stuff. I didn't ever tour with it or do anything like that, although I did have a ton of music in TV and film with it. And it can be heard in prestigious television shows like Paris Hilton's My New BFF.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
It's unwatchably bad TV with my music.
With great music.
They used my whole record on it, and I made a bunch of money, but boy, that was painful. Celebutant's still floating around out there. I actually need to put it back on Spotify. I never did that much with it outside of the TV film thing, which was great. And now I just do solo stuff, and I also do music with the drummer in my band here in Vegas. His name's Terry Warren. We do a thing called Pushback, which is it's not really electro pop. It's more like kind of like got that vintage Bowie thing, and like low era Bowie, but with I don't know how to describe it, but so that's kind of the music, the original music thing now.
Cool. If anybody wants to find out more about Mitchell, you have your own website, mitchellsigman.com, with lots of audio and video and history going on there. So pop along there. Nice picture of you and Terry just there. I have a question myself personally. Now, it is well known that I'm a big fan of FM synthesizers, particularly the DX range of synthesizers. And of course, Take My Breath Away it had loads of DX7 on it. So yeah. So when you were, were you recreating that live when you were in the band? And if so, were you using samples? Were you using the real thing? How did you kind of recreate that?
So back then, it's not too exciting an answer. It was a mix of samples and onboard things. Initially, I was playing a K2000 and a Nord lead in that, and and the K2000 was being used largely as a sampler. And then I got fed up with the K2000's awful onboard effects, and I switched over to a Triton Extreme, which had great effects but was a pain in the butt in every other way. And I used that for samples as well. And I switched to an Alesis Ion for my top lead synthesizer, which is also a pain in the butt. And every time I think about those days, I think, oh, if I would have had my main stage setup that I use for everything now live, life would have been better. If I was to do it now, I would probably bring my Prophet 10. I've got a Red 4 Prophet 10. That's awesome. And it wouldn't have been practical, though, to answer your question, to bring, DXs and all that stuff. We were constantly doing fly dates where it's like, go to the airport, fly to Miami, play one night, fly back. Like, you just couldn't bring a bunch of gear. So that's why I say the main stage thing would be ideal. Yeah.
And that's your main rig now, is main stage. Whenever you play live, it's just like a controller and a laptop.
Yeah. For ever since it came out, because I'm a Logic guy. So literally, like, the day it came out, I was like, this is it, and I've never played another keyboard live in however long it's been out, in a decade. I look at guys playing giant workstations live, and I'm just like, what are they doing?
We had we have a friend of the show. He's been on once. I think we've actually got him. When have we got him booked? I haven't got my details here. Jim Danica, who plays with his name escapes me now. He's going to kill me. But Jim has got this thing called Backstage Pass, which is a big kind of library of sounds for main stage. And he's also developed a Touch OSC controller for the iPad. So literally his rig on his last tour was laptop, iPad, KX88 controller. That was it.
Yeah, awesome.
With a custom built powerlifting keyboard stand that he built himself, so he could just adapt it to wherever he was. So it certainly seems to be the thing with gigging musicians these days.
So especially because the band I play in here, I play a lot of guitar.
Right. Okay. That's
because I'm dealing with an entire guitar setup. I want everything I want the keyboard setup to be as minimal as possible.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it just makes it easier. If I was doing a full blown, we can all say that. If I was touring with Nine Inch Nails, whoever, I would probably bring some more fun stuff with me. But main stage, just, anybody who's used main stage knows it's not just about the instruments. It's about, I can have a chart on every patch with lyrics or charts or whatever. I can mix effects and splits and anything, 6 ways to Sunday. So it just, for that kind of gig, it just makes life so easy.
Yeah, it is a brilliant live solution.
It is, yeah. I mean, I don't play live, not with keyboards anyway. I haven't played live for God knows how long. But I have main stage because it's, if you just want to do something quickly, just mess around, you can have all this stuff. It's just very easy to use. Michael W. Smith is the artist that Jim is the MD and keyboard player for. That's so, and Amy Grant, that's it, yeah. So, and if you are a fan of Jim, as we are, he's back on the show May 20th to tell us about some of the new stuff that he's got for his main stage platform, which is Backstage Pass, and also the fact that he's taken all of his libraries and contacted them, shall we say. So they're all now in contact as well as main stage. So pick and choose. It's fantastic stuff. It's just gone 9 p.m. We've that's it. Kent, have you got anything you want to throw Mitchell's way? I know you've been sort of sat there quite quietly.
I've been on the Cherry Audio website for the last 20 odd minutes.
Spying.
Well, the thing is, there was these 3 letters that keep coming up. Now, I had a conversation with somebody only a couple of days ago about this, but the memory mode accepts MPE. And I think all the Hydrosynth owners out there, to which there are billions, as many stars as there are in the galaxy, need to get these instruments as soon as possible.
There you go. Is MP a big thing for you guys, Mitchell?
It's so difficult to say because we don't know who's using it. We have no way of knowing who uses it.
Well, now the Hydra's out there, everybody has got
Well,
access
yeah,
to
because I mean,
it, so-
I have it. Now, understand that I live in such a bubble and, of vintage whatever, and I'm under a rock as far as super modern things go. So I always like to joke, like, yeah, nobody uses MPE. We're just putting it in there for fun. People just like to complain about it on the internet. It doesn't have MPE. But it must be much more than I think. I wish we had a way of knowing. People seem to appreciate it. The one thing that happens on our end where, again, because I complain all the time, people like get upset with us if we don't put it in certain instruments. And they don't realize that, like the Quadra, for example, we couldn't have put it in the Quadra just because if a paraphonic synthesizer can't be MP inherently because it's got one filter. So there's a couple instruments and we didn't do it in 8-voice because it would have been a nightmare. But basically the answer is any instrument we can put it in, including the upcoming instrument I can't name that will be out next Thursday, definitely has MP. Awesome. So anytime we can implement it, we do.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be noted. That'll bring quite a few people in.
And every parameter that we can apply it to, it's there, and it's really easy to set up. And again, I sound like such a shill, but like same thing with the MIDI assignments. Like our MIDI assignments are so easy to set up; they're just ridiculously dumb easy to set up. And the MP is really just an extension of that. It works basically the same way. You just right click, sign MP, done. So it's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, hopefully that's going to drive a few more customers your way if they can link that up, because the Hydrosynth, I mean, we say this every week. It's just been an incredible thing, and I'm still probably maybe today I'm not the only person on the planet that doesn't have a Hydrosynth, because I'm guessing you don't, Mitchell.
I don't.
I'm in good company for a change, because normally everyone's got one.
I have almost no new instruments, which isn't on purpose. It's just I've got so much crap anyway.
You've got an emulator too. I mean,
I never play it. No, the main things I play are the modular and the Polymoog and the
that's no excuse. I've got 6 Polymoogs. One of them is signed by Bob Moog.
Does one even work? Yeah.
Well, fortunately, being a restorer of keyboards, yes.
I mean, so if you play Polymoogs, there has to be something wrong with your brain to want to play something like that over a Hydrosynth or anything modern and cool. I just like all this weird crap.
Yeah, no, for me, it was always because when I was a kid, I used to have a poster of one up on my wall. Right. One day I will own one of these.
That was me with the Prophet 5, and I managed to score one in LA about 15 years ago for like $1,000. Like, you had some minor things wrong with it. So I've still got a vintage Prophet, and I got the Rev 4 when it came out, and the Rev 4 is just, everybody should have one. I feel that way. The way you guys feel about the Hydrosynth, it sounds so good.
Mind you, I've got a Quadra in the kitchen. But because when you said, the Quadra's a turd, and I've gone, I've got a turd in my kitchen.
My audio is messing up again. Hang on.
Yeah, we'll wait for him to come back and we'll say our goodbyes. So what a turn up. 2 people in the show that don't have a Hydrosynth. Can we beat that as a record? I don't know.
It'll be the last time it happens.
Yeah, probably, for sure. Right, well, Mitchell, it's been absolutely fantastic talking with you and hearing all this great information about Cherry Audio. Thank you ever so much for coming on, and send our thanks to Dan. We must get both of you back on at some point in the near future.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Pleasure. Do come back soon, and we will promise to try and get Dan on maybe when he's a little less busy. But by the sounds of it, you guys are kind of snowed under for the foreseeable. So, but brilliant. Thanks ever so much for coming on, Ben.
Yes.
What have you got coming up this weekend?
Well, first of all, I'm gigging on Saturday at JD's in St Helens, and then I found out today that I'm on Dom's show on Sunday night. So I'm the guest for the change. I'll be chatting with Dom and taking part in the quiz and what have you. So get along to that if you can.
Yeah,
And
so
that's it, really.
That's a good weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, to be honest. Yeah.
Dom Show, 7 p.m. UK time on a Sunday. It's always good fun. Lots of kind of irreverence and not completely technology based, but often it's a balance between just like crazy quizzes and a bit of technology chat. Kent, you've got the builders in, so I'm guessing you're up all over the place. But have you got much on repair wise this weekend?
I do have a lot to do. I do have an awful lot to do. I've got 2 OBXAs, an OBX, a 106, a Memorymoog, that Synth rack thing that I can't pronounce.
Yeah.
There was something else. Oh, we've got an MKS to fix now. And a few other bits and pieces I've got to get done for Monday. So, and then in between that, I'm moving stuff around. And, because we need this clear now because we want to work over here. So we've got to move several thousand keyboards over somewhere else. So it's all good fun.
Isn't it just? Well, have plenty of fun. You don't have to worry about watching Rands' show tomorrow because Rands is taking the week off. It's his daughter's birthday, I think.
Yes.
So
happy birthday.
Normally I have to juggle listening to Rands' show and listening to the football. So can't do both. This weekend we're playing on a Sunday, so but it's the afternoon, Ben. Don't worry, I will be there to hassle you. Of course, don't forget Jamie's show, 6 p.m. UK time on the Sunday, just before Dom's show. No Rands on Saturday, so the next show, kind of in this community, will be Nick on Wednesday with Sonic State, and then we're back next Friday. Who have we got? We've got Starsky Carr, YouTuber Supreme. Looking forward to having a chat with Starsky. And then the week after that, we've got the wonderful Eric Norlander on March 25th. April 1st, Gaz Williams. Kelly Marie on April 8th. We've got Tara Bush from My Speak Machine, who's currently knocking them dead, supporting Gary Newman on his US tour. So really looking forward to getting Tara on the show. We've got Michael Whalen, April 22nd. That's promising to be a really good one because he's launching his new album from EMIAP in Philadelphia. And he's going to be there on site, so hopefully we might get some GX1 demos or something like that.
That'd be great.
Andrew Longhurst on May 6th, Jim Danica May 20th, Elliot Kennedy, super songwriter on June 10th. So lots of people booked up for future shows. Do stay tuned to see all those. And we've had a great guest today. Thank you again, Mitchell, for coming along.
Thank you so much.
Come back soon and say thank you to Dan for us, and of course to Robert, your marketing guy, who's been handling a lot of the questions in the chat.
I said it for Robert.
Let's give Robert a round of. Hang on, we can do this now. You see, big cheer for Robert. There we go. Nice one, sir. Thank you to everyone that's in the chat. You've been fantastic contributing to the show as always. If you're new to the show, make sure you've hit that subscribe button and the little bell to get notifications. Every Friday, 7 p.m. UK time, this is where we'll be. We've been doing it the last 101 weeks. We've got 3 more weeks and it's officially our 2-year birthday. So we might have to think of doing something for that. Just
before I forget, Alex Ball's got a new video out.
Yes.
The Moog one. I watched it before. It's great. So get a look at that if you can.
Yeah, Alex Ball's new. He's doing the Matriarch and then the Sound Studio, which is the DFAM, Subharmonicon, and Mother 32.
He does me head in because I've been working on this like original stuff for Electromantics for a little bit now, and I'm trying to get this dead particular early electronic sound. He's just like demoing some stuff, and it's exactly what I was after. He's like doing what I've been trying to do. But
so that video dropped last night when I was on Kent's thing, and I didn't get a chance to watch it until this morning. And I watched it, and the intro tune is just fan. I think is it he's using M-Tron Mark II, I think, or certainly sounds like he's using that because it's a brilliant little opening thing. Gets stuck in your head. And I watched the video, and I was kind of working at the same time. And as the credits started rolling, I just kind of went back to my main screen and was just doing something. And a little while later, somebody posted this screenshot, and he's only gone and credited me in the credits for the thing. He's put me down as best boy. With Dr. Mix was Gaffer.
Yeah.
And then the key grip was Mark Doty, but he changed something about Mark's name. I can't remember, but yeah, thank you, Alex, for the unwarranted but very welcome credit in the I'm credited in the Alex Ball video. I didn't do anything for it. Fantastic, brilliant. So that's the show. Thank you very much indeed for your time. We will see you same time, same place next week as I fill trying to get the right thing up on the screen. There we go. Yeah, we'll be back 7 p.m. next week. So thanks ever so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share us around. And we will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.